Can I just take this off? I'm afraid I'm going to bump into it. Do you need it?
No, I want to be able to just. Oh,
You want to bring it up?
well,
See, now I can't run with that.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess, almost 12 o'clock. I can see quite a few of you trickling in now. We're just at 11:58, so we'll just give it a few minutes to give everyone an opportunity to log in, and we'll get started shortly. Hi again to everyone who's logged in. If you just missed the last little bit there, we're just giving everyone a chance to log in. So we're just at 11:59, so we'll give it one more minute before we get started. I can see quite a few of you logged in there, which is great to see. Thank you for joining us. So we'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get started.
Max. Can't find them at all.
All right, guys, it's just at 12 o'clock. I might just give it one more minute just to give everyone a chance to log in. So we'll be getting started in just one more minute. Thanks for your patience, guys.
This is off.
All right, so just at 12:01, so I might get the ball rolling now. Thank you everyone for joining in. I can see quite a few of you have logged on, which is really great to see. So today we've got the lovely Gemma and Fanny from Shed 11 with us. They are going to run us through how to upcycle some of our old furniture. So if you've got any old furniture lying around at home, instead of just throwing it away or donating it, there's always a chance to bring it to life again. So we're very excited to have them here with us today. I'll just run through some quick Zoom etiquette so you're aware of how everything works. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen. I'll try and get to you and help sort you out. If you have any questions throughout the workshop, we're more than happy to get those answered. So please put them through the Q&A box. So if you have any questions, please put them through the Q&A box. That's pretty much it. So I'll just hand over to the lovely ladies over there and we'll get started.
thank you. Thanks, Karen. Thanks. Hi, I'm Gemma, and this is Fanny, and we're sisters-in-law. And as Karen said, we're Shed 11, and we're based up in St Ives, and we're furniture upcyclers. We've had our business for about 4 years now, doing this professionally, but we've been doing it ourselves all our lives. So it's wonderful that we've been able to offer our services to the public the last few years. And we're really passionate about sharing our skills as well. So we're really happy to have the opportunity to just teach you some of the basics. We're very, very impassioned about sustainability and saving some of this beautiful old furniture from landfill. So as Karen said, if you have any questions throughout, just pop it in the chat box and she'll ask us and we can answer them. Also, if there's anything, you know, if we're talking too quietly or anything like that, please pop it in the chat box. So we upcycle furniture with a specialist decorative paint called chalk paint. It's low VOC, very environmentally friendly paint. It generally requires very little prep, and Fanny will show you a bit closer. So it requires very little prep. It's extremely versatile. You can create all sorts of different techniques and looks. You can use it on lots and lots of different materials, so wood, metal, fabrics. You can dye things with it. And the big difference with chalk paint and other paint is where you're not doing so much prep, you do need to finish it. So chalk paint itself is a very, as you would imagine, very chalky, very matte, porous finish. So there is a final step, finishing with waxes or varnishes, which we'll be showing you today. And we'll be showing you a few different painting techniques as well, and going through the basics. We're assuming that most people are new to this. So we're going to go through, you know, choosing a piece, prepping a piece, painting, and then finishing. And then if we have time, we will also then show you some of the more creative techniques and effects you can get. But if you happen to miss anything, don't worry, because at the very end we're going to email a fact sheet to everyone, which just shows you some of the things we're talking about today and where you can get more information. And Fanny and I are also always available to have a chat to help you out. Yeah, so we thought we would start off with Fanny showing you a little bit about prepping a piece, although it's a very low amount of prep needed. There is some prep. So Fanny, would you like to show? We've got something to show you.
Okay, I'm just going to use this standard brown piece of furniture. So imagine that this is a piece that you've had for many years in your house, and you've decided, oh, I love it, it works well, but I just can't stand this brown anymore. Or it's a piece that was given to you, or it's a treasure that you found on the side of the road. Whatever the origin, it's good to use it again. Too much furniture goes into landfill. So we're going to use it again because we can, and we'll teach you how to do it. So first of all, you'd probably give it a good clean. So you can use sugar soap, or you can use water with a bit of detergent. Just take off all the grime, take off all the excess dirt, the cobwebs, the dust. If you happen to have an old piece that belonged to an avid sticker collector, then you might use some I can never pronounce this, methylated spirits. And then you just put it on like this, and then you scrape it off with either a blade or a knife, but something quite delicate. You take it off, and that will keep you busy for a little while, but the result is very satisfying when it's all smooth. So imagine that this is all smooth, it's all clean, you finished with your methylated spirit, and you're starting to think about what you want to do. And you might think, oh, these handles, I don't like them, I really am not interested in something like that. So you might go and say, okay, I'll take them off. And that's a very easy step. Usually you just unscrew them. If they're glued on, you might just poof, use a hammer to take it off, and you can replace it. So this is the easiest way when the same hole fits the next model that you kind of like. If that's not the case, and you want a handle that has several holes, for example, so this is not a knob, it's a handle, it has 2 holes, Then you might need to fill up this hole and then drill 2 other, oops. So you might use some wood filler, put it in the hole. You would use a nice spatula, fill the hole, let it dry, drill 2 other holes, and then you have your new piece ready to go with the handles that you have envisioned for your final look. If you have a piece that have a little dents, you can use this wood filler as well to fill in the dents. If you feel that this surface is too smooth, then you might use it may be a 240 number sandpaper just to scruff it so that the paint can grip. And then you can just take it off with a rag or with a brush. So the prep is quite minimal, which is very encouraging because the energy and the excitement you have in a project is usually at the beginning. So you don't want to lose steam by preparing a piece. You don't need to. This paint is ready to go. So we've done our prep. Another element that you might want to do is that we find that the sides of the drawers are not aesthetically very pretty. So you might use some painter's tape. You measure it, so it's the same on either side, and you might paint this area that would be, or to the level where you think that it's more often opened. You can also decide that you want to decorate these sides. You might want to paint the inside of the drawer. Once you start painting, you'll want to do it everywhere. And so now we're ready to go. This is kind of a standard piece, a not problem piece. If you do have a piece that has a wood that you suspect might bleed, generally, those are always teak and pine. Those are the 2 that are generally would bleed. And it's terribly discouraging because you've started this, you've painted, and then all of a sudden, if you're painting white, for instance, your white will become pink or your white become yellow. And it's just heartbreaking. So you want to anticipate that problem and make it disappear. And this is where you would use this product. It's the only one we use that is not water-based and that has a bit of a smell. So you might want to do this outside. It's Zinsser. You can buy this in all the, what are they called? Bunnings? Hardware stores, Bunnings. It's Zinsser, and it's a primer, a sealer, and a stain blocker. So if you think that you're going to have a problem wood and you want to do a light color, this is your best friend. You use a brush that you might need to discard afterwards, but it is very good. And this is the example we have here on this piece of this bedside table. We're going to paint throughout the workshop. One side that is white has been primed with this Zinsser. So it's a primer, a stain blocker, and a sealer. And the other side is just normal wood that's been washed up, prep. And we're going to show you different painting techniques. And now I'm going to hand over to Gemma.
So now we'll show you 2 techniques. We're going to do on this side more of a smooth modern finish in white, and on this side I'm going to use a colour and we'll show you how to paint with texture. The paint that Annie Sloan chalk paint, we love to use it. It's very, very quick drying, and it's extremely versatile, as I said. So you can paint it on in a very thick way and build up layers of texture, or you can water it down a little bit and use it as a smooth paint, which we'll do on that side. So to do a smooth finish, I'll show you what brushes we like to use. So for a modern smooth finish, we tend to use flat synthetic brushes. Again, you can get brushes from your hardware store, or if you think you're going to be doing a lot of it, we recommend getting the best brushes that you can afford. And we love these ones, which are called, what are they called again?
Klingon.
Klingon, as in clean.
But any synthetic brush is good. Yeah. So we invest in brushes because we use them so often, and so could you. So invest in what you can afford, but it's your best friend to have it, because you have such a good paint and then you have a good brush, then you're, you know,
But funnily enough, this is also my favourite brush, which is the second cheapest one at Bunnings.
voila. So you figure
There
out.
you go. You'll find the one that you love. So to do this one here, the modern side, Fanny's got a white somewhere, this one, sorry. So when you open the paint, I'll show you, the consistency is kind of like thickened cream.
I'm showing it now.
You're showing it? So that's the consistency you're going to want to do a modern finish. So Fanny will give you a bit of a demo now.
Voila. So I've added a bit of water.
You've added a little bit of water. So the paint will thicken up when it's exposed to heat or when you leave the lid off. So this one's much thicker. And if I can paint with it like that, lovely and thick, or I can water it down to do a modern finish like Fanny's doing. So water is your friend. So I've even had paints that have almost fully dried in the tin, and then I add water and mix it up, and it's good to go again. So it goes a long way, this paint.
So this we might use 2 coats, Gemma?
Yeah, generally white. Everyone loves white, as do we. But it's strangely enough, it's the hardest colour to work with, only because there's such little pigment. It can take a number of coats to get a really even coverage. So that's another reason we use the Zinsser here in this instance. One, because it's a pine, and as Fanny said, they have a tendency to sometimes bleed, which means that the oils and the tannins in the wood kind of get drawn out into the top layer and it'll discolour. So the Zinsser does 2 things here, in that it stops that happening and it takes it from dark brown to white already, so it's basically an undercoat. So Fanny will need to use less coats of the white to get a good finish.
Gemma, we've just had a question come through.
Yeah.
Just about how much water you would add to the tin to get a nice sort of consistency.
Basically until it is the consistency of thickened cream. So we'll just give it a good squirt.
Whatever cup, if it's in a 1 litre tin.
It depends how thick it is. You know, you might. Yeah, I would just be stirring as you do it. That's what we do. And so you put a little bit in, stir it up, put a little bit in, stir it up until it's that kind of thickened cream consistency. And if you've gone too far, you can always leave the lid off and leave it sitting somewhere for, a day, and it will thicken up again.
Perfect. Thanks, Gemma.
You're not going to ruin it if you put too much water in.
I would also say that if you're doing this at home, you would be painting the drawers separately and the body separately.
Yes.
You wouldn't be painting as a whole because you're going to have uneven finishes.
Exactly, because you want to be painting the lips of the drawer and then the sides, as Fanny showed. So you would take them out, absolutely. And you'd paint inside these little areas here as well, so that when the drawers are closed, you're not seeing wood popping through here. But yeah, this is just as an example.
So today's a nice mild day with wind, and this is already drying. So it's a fabulous paint if you're in a hurry for a project, or you have little patience, or you have little kids that you have to go pick up at school and you only have a little bit of time. So for a modern finish, I would paint like this, nice smooth strokes. Chalk paint will reveal a bit of brush strokes, but it's part of the charm. And if you want a even finer finish, you may use some sandpaper between coats. So you let this dry, it takes about 30 minutes to dry. You do a very light sand in a 400, the numbers of the sandpaper up here. The bigger the number, the finer the grain. A slight one, then I do my second coat. And then if I need a third coat, I'd go, but usually it's only 2.
Yeah, and often a final sand just before
waxing or whichever finish you
do the
want.
final finishing. And again, if you're not a terribly experienced painter and you do get little drips of paint coming on the edges, you can just sand them out before you do the final coat. So it's a very forgiving paint in that respect as well.
And for painting, you like long strokes. You don't want to, when you're trying a modern finish and when you have this type of brush, you're just doing a nice regular stroke, working with the tip of the brush more than the whole length of the brush. And all that is written in that fact sheet. It gives you a hint of which angle you should use a brush for a nice, smooth, modern finish.
And Fanny mentioned the weather a moment ago, which is actually very important because it does dry so quickly, and in Australia we get some very hot summers. So we find that you don't want to be painting, if you can avoid it, in full sun because you will find it will dry so quickly. So it's better to find somewhere a little bit shady and a bit cooler. But then again, in winter it'll take longer to dry. So
again, this paint that we're using is Annie Sloan chalk paint. And today, if you're very enthusiastic and just want to go and do your project, you will get a discount and you'll get 11% off any tin that you buy. So you can go into your project at once. So I'm going to keep on doing this very slowly and hand over to Gemma that at the same time is going to show you a different way of painting with a different brush and different colors.
So on this side, I'm going to use a bright colour. I've got a colour called Giverny. Have I pronounced that correctly, Fanny?
Giverny.
Giverny.
It's the town where Monet lived.
There you go. I knew that. I've been there. So this one is very thick, like that. It's much thicker than the white because I've had this tin for a while and the lid's been off and I've let it thicken up. And for this one, I'm using an oval brush. This one is a natural bristle brush, and it's just lovely to get, push in here and do. This one's a much less precise way of painting to what Fanny's doing. So for the texture, when we show you the finishing coat using the waxes, we'll show you that the waxes are different colours. So you can either have a clear wax for a kind of modern, if you like the colour that you've already got. Fanny's just going to show you here. They've got, Annie's got white, brown, black and clear. And the darker colours we use, or people use to get into the texture and the crevices and it just gives it a really different look. You can also tint your waxes any colour. Actually, if you get clear wax, you can tint it with paint. So if you wanted a blue wax, you can make that. But we'll talk about that later. But so that's the thinking behind this. So I'm just going to get a decent amount of paint, and I'm just going to dab it on. Like it's really, I want all this, and it's going to dry with all the texture. You won't be able to see anything just yet. I'm going to paint like this. I'm getting brush marks, I'm getting dab marks. And then when I add the waxes later, that's all going to show up. So this is good for a rustic look. In there. And this will obviously take a little bit longer to dry because it's so thick. And you can, we sometimes use a hairdryer to speed up the process of drying. If it's quite thick, the paint, sometimes you find the hairdryer applied directly close up to the paint will actually crack the paint, and you get lots of little cracks throughout the paint. And it's actually, that can be very beautiful because you can get the waxes into the cracks. Again, for a more rustic, aged look. But obviously you need to think about that if you're doing a modern finish. You don't want the cracks in that one. So I'll keep going with that.
Okay, so I'm kind of finished with my first coat. So in keeping in mind that we love our brushes and we take care of them, but also we don't want to waste water by washing them every time we use them between coats. So,
And it will dry very quickly.
and it will dry very quickly. So you must wrap it up. And so our little tip today, sustainability tip, is use, if you eat sliced bread and you have them in these little bags, then this is what we use. We just put it in, kind of give it a twisty at the top, and then it's ready for in 30 minutes. When this is dry, I can use it again. And at the end of my project, I will wash them in clear water, and I'm ready to go for many years. We've had theirs, I don't know, 6-7 years.
You can actually leave them wrapped up as well for days. I've come back to a project a week later if I've well wrapped my brush and it's still okay to go. If it's really hot weather, I'll store the wrapped brush in the fridge, and it just, so it can be fantastic. You very rarely need to wash your brushes if you wrap them well in the plastic.
Okay, well, in our workshop today, we've seen how to prep, we've seen how to paint, a smooth finish and a textured finish. Now,
Does anyone have any questions about any of that?
Oh yeah, we do have a couple questions that came through.
Yeah.
So one about brushes. Would a sponge brush work?
We use sponge brushes for effects, for creative effects, but personally I've never tried painting with a sponge brush. Have you, Fanny?
I've used sponge rollers. If I'm doing stenciling, I do use a sponge roller, and that's very effective. But really, if you have a sponge, you can use it for effects. You can also fill it up with water and squeeze water out with your sponge and let it drip on wet paint, and that's a beautiful effect.
But I would imagine, personally, I think sponge brushes would absorb too much paint. I think a synthetic brush is probably what. So I guess the answer is we're not sure.
But there's no wrong.
I would think probably, yeah, it's better to, I would go for a synthetic brush.
So we've got one more. What is the best way to sand or prep furniture that has grooves and details?
The best way, your fingers. Obviously, if you have a nice flat surface, you could use a orbital sander, always starting with a big grit and finishing in a finer grit. But something like this, I think there's no secret but just having sandpaper and doing it with your fingers. Some of these sandpapers have a sponge backing, so it's a bit more comfortable. There are some if you have to sand spindles on chairs, on railings, there are now some gloves that are sandpaper. So you just use your full hand. That's a glove with sandpaper, and you can go there. But I think when it comes to sanding.
Sometimes people also use a paint and varnish stripper. So you could, they're pretty toxic. So, take all your precautions with your gloves and your masks and goggles, but you can use a stripper to strip off the existing finish. So if you do have lots of little details, it can help to get a stripper in there just to at least get it started and pull off some of the old varnish and stain.
Yeah, a stripper with a scraper. There are now strippers that are water-based and with low.
That's true, there are.
One brand is called BioStrip, and it's just fabulous. And you can do that indoors, actually. It doesn't smell, and it works beautifully. Stripper is also a good way to prep if you don't want to sand, or if you have asthma or something, I don't know.
And it also depends on the finish that you want. So if you like that lime washed, kind of whitewashed look, or we do a lot of washes in a kind of turquoise colour because we love the rustic Indian furniture look, then that is the one exception to having to do quite a lot of prep beforehand, in that a wash needs to be done on raw wood. So whereas here on this side even I've given it a light scuff just because it was super shiny, just for the adhesion thing. A wash won't adhere to varnish because water and the varnishes and washes don't mix. So that is where you would have to, and where we would use strippers a lot is if we're doing a wash. So we would strip any existing finish off it, and then we would do what Fanny said and sand it using a coarse grit going down to a very fine grit, and then we could do a wash. And for washes, we use the same paint. We just water it down even more. So we would go down to more of a milk consistency, just with water, and then you paint it over the bare wood, grab an old rag, or I use my kids' old socks, which is really handy, and then you just wipe it off. And then you can do another layer of wash and wipe it off until you get the right colour. But you will find with this final step, which is the finishing step, you'll find that the waxes do slightly change the colour of the paint in that they deepen it, and with a wash, they lighten it. So if you're doing a wash, you want to make it slightly stronger than you want the final product to be. So on that note, we'll give you a quick example of finishing.
Correct. So at this stage in the process of painting, you finished with your chalk paint. It is dry. Here we painted this little stool, 2 colors, gray and orange. And now we are going to wax it. That is to seal it, to protect it for many years to come. So we use a same brand, Annie Sloan chalk paint, chalk wax, sorry. It comes, as Gemma said it before, either in clear and white and black and brown, and we'll show you the different effects you can have with the colored waxes. But this is clear, it's solid, and you just can apply it with either a rag, which is what I like to do, a synthetic, what are these called? These rags?
Microfiber.
Microfiber rag, so that you don't have any lint coming off.
You can basically use any rag that doesn't pill. So also old flannelette sheets and pajamas, kind of thing. The wax is solid, but it's softer than
it's like shoe wax
you might have or used in the past, the beeswax, and so it's very lovely to work with and very easy to work with.
So this is how I apply it. You can just put it on, and at the same time you're putting one layer and you're taking off any excess.
So you do the orange, and then I'll show the technique of using the brush on the grey. If you like.
Well, there's the other side of the orange. So if you want to come over. And this will dry and eventually touch dry within a day or even less. And then it will cure within 20 days.
5 to 30 days, yeah. So it provides a protective coating, so it makes it water resistant. If you didn't wax it, which we've got a few pieces that we haven't waxed, it's more prone to marking and natural kind of wear of the paint. So the wax makes it water resistant. It means that you can clean it. So if you do need to clean a piece that you've waxed, you just use a damp cloth. And if you get marks on it, the kids' pencils and pens and stuff, you can clean it out with more wax. Yeah, and you can see there how it's deepened the colour there. So the orange has slightly changed colour.
So another way of applying is with a wax brush. So this is a much harder bristle. And you just apply it. Oops.
Work it right into the paint.
Work it right in. And it's great when you have different, if you're wanting to go in grooves, you can just go left, right, and center. And then you would take any excess off. Can you see anything?
Yeah, you can see the change in colour. So the key with the wax is that it can't be thick. So if Fanny hadn't wiped off the excess, then that would dry very tacky and not at all what you want. So you just, a little bit goes a long way. As Fanny said, you just, whatever method you use, you just work it right in. You don't need to be particularly precise.
And this has low VOC. You can do this project indoors.
So we're just wiping it down like that to get the excess off and leave a very fine layer of wax. And we would leave that now for at least 24 hours, and then you would come back and you buff it, meaning like when you're shining shoes. So you just give it a little buff, again with a microfiber or lint-free cloth, and you can buff it to kind of a satin finish, or you can just keep buffing and it'll go very shiny.
So Gemma, you want to say, just give an advice if you're painting outdoor furniture?
Yeah, so that's one method of sealing your piece. Another method is using a lacquer or a varnish. Fanny and I use this one a lot. It's a water-based varnish. We use water-based because we find that the water-based doesn't yellow the paint. So if you used an oil over that, it would definitely yellow it over time. Oil-based changes the colour of a piece, even, it doesn't deepen it just like that there, but it really changes it with an amber kind of hue. And we find, sometimes we want to do a natural wood finish. So we do also, along with painting, we also incorporate wood and restore wood on parts of our pieces. And so we might want to sand all the old dark varnish away to natural wood and then use something like this to keep the natural colour. And we tend to use this in situations where it's very high use, so maybe a dining table or
High traffic.
Yeah, high traffic, bedside tables, dining tables, and for outdoor furniture.
So for outdoor, you can either paint and leave it as chalk paint and it'll sustain the weather.
It'll naturally wear, but I like non-treated outdoor pieces. Or if you wanted to be more of a long-lasting, got a perfect finish, you do that with varnish.
Okay, well, Gemma's going to continue waxing this stool so we have a look. And during that time, so this is my side, the white side is almost dry. The blue side was so thick with texture, it's not dried yet. This one we're waxing, and in the meantime, we're going to show you. I'm going to hide Gemma, poor thing. Off you go. Different ways you can reveal texture. So I have 4 panels of this screen. This screen is made of wood, a wooden frame. And this is it's almost like if it was pressed tin, but I think it's leather. And so there is there are grooves, there's a design here. It's flowers and stems. Now, it was brown, it was uninteresting. And with these 4 panels, we're going to show you 4 ways of using chalk paint and wax to reveal patterns. So for this one, I've painted 2 coats of white. It's the same white I used behind here. And my aim is to sand back. I've also clear waxed it. My aim is to sand back to reveal the texture. So all I'm doing is I've chosen a rather thick grain. It's 180 because I'm ready to go and I really want to reveal it. And I'm just going to gently reveal the top. Sorry for the noise. Could you hold this, Gemma, please? There we go.
Because Fanny's not generating a lot of dust at the moment, we're good to do this, but we would recommend wearing a mask for most of your sanding, so you're not breathing in the fine particles.
There's also less dust because I've clear waxed it. I've kind of settled the paint. Here we go. We have a few flowers showing. We have, can anybody see that? It's an interesting way of thinking. You paint to take it off, but the result is beautiful. You would go, and little by little, you just, the top bits will be revealed, and it'll give a nice look. That we love it. I don't know if you can really. Karen, can you? Does this look interesting?
Yes, we can start to see it come through. So for everyone, this has been painted over with the chalk paint, is that correct?
Correct.
And now it's being sanded off to sort of show those grooves and patterns.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the first technique, which is the easiest one. You just paint over with chalk paint and sand back as much as you want to reveal.
And then people often use this technique to distress furniture as well, if you're after a rustic look, so that it looks, you know, naturally worn and chipped and the paint is old. And when you're distressing, the general rule of thumb is just think about where it would naturally wear. So a piece
Would be on the corners.
Yeah, the corners, the handles, if it's got handles. Some people make the mistake of kind of over distressing and distressing the middle of flat areas that you wouldn't normally see a lot of use. You know, just think of hands touching things over the years and then sand those areas.
So here once you've gotten to the level you want, you just put some clear wax back on it and it'll reveal. So here it's revealing back to the wood, back to the leather. It's quite lovely. So this is our first way of revealing texture with just a pure sanding. Another way with this panel, this one's gray. It's the same design as the white one. Now what I'm going to try to do now is to use
Wax.
A dark wax.
So are there any more questions before we move on to this one?
We do have a few questions. I'll just ask a couple and we'll get back to the others.
Yeah.
So we had one about how to clean the wax brush and the best way to store the wax brush.
Okay. Wax brushes, I tend to do in a gentle warm water and soap, or you can use, I mean, there is a little bit of, you can use a paint thinner, so methylated spirits will clean off a wax brush. And I should probably store my wax brushes better, but I tend to just hang them and then the wax will harden on the brush, but you just give it a good, you warm it up basically.
Yeah.
You just warm it up and the wax will remelt, you know, and you can use it again. So that's
I put mine in hot water, quite hot water, and that add much of dish soap and really hot water to melt the wax, and then do exactly what Gemma said. I rinse it like that and then let it be. So it's
and you can soften the wax. So if you find the cold weather makes the wax a little bit harder to work with, I just pop mine in the sun or somewhere warm for a short while, or you can put it in a little bath of warm water, obviously not letting the water go into the tin, and it will soften it to the point where it's just easy to work with again. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll just ask one more and then let you start that one again.
Yeah.
So can you paint any wood even if it's dark?
Any wood, even like an even
color, even if it's very dark?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. The only reason we used an undercoat under the white is just to make it easier for ourselves to get from very dark to white. But yes, you can do extremely dark furniture. You can paint over previously painted pieces. You can dye things with it. You can do anything really.
And this paint can be painted on dark wood, light wood, on plastic, on glass, on metal. You can paint your children.
I painted my shoes.
You painted your shoes.
Yeah, my car. I painted my car.
That's true.
My house.
That's true.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, great, perfect.
That's all.
Sorry?
Thanks, guys. I'd let you pass back on and let you keep going.
So this, we're trying to use 2 waxes. Could you hand me the dark brush, please? So I've done a first layer of clear wax. That's to seal this undercolor. And now I'm just going to apply a bit of dark wax. Now I've changed brushes because I don't want to pollute my clear brush with dark wax.
So dark is brown wax, and he's got a black wax as well.
So this looks horrific. It looks very scary. But then I'm going to remove it I'm back with my clear wax.
So with this technique, it's really important to make sure you put clear wax first. So if Fanny had just done the dark wax directly on the paint, it would stain the paint with the dark brown. But because Fanny's put a clear wax first and then dark wax over the top, she can now use clear wax to erase a lot of the brown and just leave bits that she wants. So here it's, you can see it in there, it's picking up some of the detail.
And this is to give the look of whether it's been in a castle, there are 1,000 years of dust in the grooves. It just gives it this instant weathered charm. You can put this dark wax in corners of drawers, just wherever you think time would have left a trace. And but the key, as Gemma said, is you need your clear wax and then your dark wax. Because if not, if I put my dark wax like that, well, I've just waxed my paint. So that's what's going to happen. And it
just stays brown.
It just stays.
Whereas Fanny can remove even more of this if she wants to, and then add more. You know, it's fun to play with. You just have a play around. And if you find that you've really just really don't like what you're doing, you can remove the wax altogether using turpentine. So just get your gloves on and a rag, and you can just, it'll pull off the wax. Or you just paint over it and do it again.
That's very important. So if you finish your project, you've painted it, you've waxed it, you've let it for a couple of days, you've buffed it, you come home and you're like, this is awful, it's not working for me. You just paint over it. So the chalk paint can be painted over a waxed finish.
Or a varnished finish.
Or a varnished finish, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So the possibilities are endless. Or if you're very creative and you want a piece, the same piece with a winter look or a summer look, you can paint it twice a year.
Yeah, you get bored like us and want to change it, then you change it. And just a tip, this is your friend. This is a little thing for opening tins. We use that. We've got them dotted around everywhere.
50 cents.
50 cents at Bunnings.
Yeah. Okay, we still have 2 to go. This one is also on your fact sheet that we have. It's called a 2-color distress. So the base is black, or this dark gray, and then I've painted red on top. Now my aim is to do the same thing I did with my first panel, which is sanding back. But instead of sanding back directly to the wood or leather that was here, I'm going to gently sand back so that my carvings are black. So you have your first coat that's quite thick, and then you put a thinner coat on top, and you're gently going to sand back this thinner coat to reveal the undercolor. So it's more satisfying to use contrasting colors.
And again, this can be for a really aged look of a piece that might have been painted 5 times over its past, and the top coats are chipping off and you're seeing the bottom coats. Or it can be just used as a kind of funky technique, like Fanny's doing here, to show the pattern. Yeah, you see that?
Could we just bring it a bit closer to the camera? That'd be great, thanks.
It's a bit hard to see that one. Are you seeing anything, or is it?
Yeah, that's starting to come through now. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's okay.
Once you wax it, I'll give it a little bit of a wax. Clear wax. You'll see there's the clear wax. Oh yeah, we better hurry up. Voila, then you can see the
Can you
black.
see it?
So that's the two color distress. And you can do this on angles, on and very quickly, because time is running out. So please feel free to ask questions. I'm quickly going to show you. So this is a beautiful blue. And I'm taking a brush in my...
The one you used earlier with the white on it?
No,
Oh,
it's
no,
a different one.
Okay.
It's an oval hard brush. So this is called dry brushing. So I'm going to put just a little bit of paint.
On the tip of your brush?
Don't in it. And then I'm going to just have a piece of cardboard, piece of paper to take off the excess. And then I'm going to gently paint over the raised surfaces.
Really gentle movement.
Very gentle movement. Now I want to frame it, so I'm using the frame, painting the frame. But this will paint the top surface.
Do you see that coming out?
That should show up well on the camera.
Yeah, that looks beautiful, guys.
Okay, so this is another way of working with raised areas. It's called dry brushing. You just have to be light on the pressure that you use.
And you can build them up, you know, finish this, think it's not quite dark enough, bright enough, and do another layer. You can do it in any color. It's a lovely technique, actually.
And you can decide that you want to sand. So you can mix everything we've just showed you with all these panels.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Voilà.
And then again, to finish it, you would wax it.
Then you would just put a wax on top.
There you go. So that's 4 different techniques on those. How are we going with time? Have we
10 minutes.
10 minutes? We got any more questions?
We've got a few more questions, but we've only got 10 minutes. So if you'd like to finish your demonstration, then we can ask a couple more before we hit 1 o'clock.
Really what we want to show you now is Fanny and I like to get creative with what we do on our furniture. And so there are so many, it's a really growing industry, the decorative furniture industry. And there are a lot of tools that you can use to add personality and originality to your pieces. Fanny and I do our own original work using...
So we have our website that's called shed11.com.au, and we sell some of our creative pieces on this site. And also we work on commission. So we are asked to transform furniture for clients, and we also do some tutorials.
So here on this is just an example of, I did this on a piece. I use lino printing, where I carve designs into lino, and then it's a form of relief printing. I will print it on the furniture. So that's, can you see that? That's one that I've carved.
Great.
And these are the lino tools for carving. It's different. So that's one technique, using relief printing of our own designs. Fanny does a technique that she loves to do called sgraffito, where she uses combs to carve patterns in the paint.
Yes, comb, you can use your lice comb, take it off your kids. So you can do some sgraffito, that's painting a base color, putting wet paint, letting the base color dry, then putting wet paint and scratching it off with a comb. We also
if you're not confident doing your own kind of carvings and designs, there are a lot of different products on the market. So this one here we turned from a very ordinary little piece into quite a decorative Indian piece using specialist, again, it's relief printing. So it's just like the Lino Printing, but it's using somebody else's product where they've got all these patterns. They're stamps, basically. And you can use those to create patterns on your piece.
Yeah, I want to quick show the stripes. It's your specialty. Here, you want to hold it? So this is usually Gemma's specialty. She's the queen of stripes, sorry. So we've painted a base color. We've used painter's tape right here, put it where we want it to be. You just give it paint all over. And then the most satisfying moment of the day, you take it off and you reveal beautiful stripes.
So you can use the tape to do any shape that you want.
You can write messages.
The trick is to remove it while it's still slightly damp, the paint, otherwise it tracks. So. What other techniques? Loads, endless. We use paint pens on top of the paint. You can use stencils,
which would look like this once you've applied that on the furniture.
There are specialist decoupage papers that are beautiful to use on furniture. And people, that's the sunflower one, you can see it. People also decoupage with napkins and wrapping paper. What else do they use? Wallpaper.
So these products are from Iron Orchid Design. These papers are from Mint Furniture.
We've used pressed tin panels as well. So you might want to have a completely different look and put pressed tin across the front of your drawers or down here, and then you can paint that. So it's just endless what you can do with the paint. And you're just saving these rather ordinary pieces and turning them into something completely original and that really suits your style. So any more questions before we finish up?
Yeah, thanks so much for showing all of that to us. What a lovely workshop. I hope everyone's taken something valuable from it. We do have a few more questions. We've got about 5 minutes, so I'll try and get through as many as possible. I'm sorry if we don't get to yours. All right, so we'll start with, where would you recommend purchasing handles and knobs for the drawers?
Well, the get-to in Australia would be Bunnings, our favorite shop. They have quite a good collection. If not, any decorate, how do you call it, places where they sell homewaresy shops, or
there are a number of good ones online too.
There's Doop, D-O-O-P.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Do up.
Or you can get some really very cool ones from places like Sabella Court. We save a lot of our old handles as well and might use them on another piece, or we paint them if we don't mind the shape of them but they're the wrong colour, even if they're metal. There are ways of restoring old metal handles as well. So sometimes you just want to give it a really good clean and you can use vinegar.
Yeah, if you want to use some old metal ones and give them a bit of a boost. If you have copper, you can put them in ketchup overnight and that'll bring it all shine. But basically we buy, if a client is interested, we'll do the body and they'll choose the knob or the handle online. It gets delivered very soon. You just have to think about how many holes you need in your project.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys. Someone's asked about the pressed tin technique. What adhesive do you use for pressed tin?
You can use a glue. We use glue. We use a lot of glue. We make sure it's a wood glue and compatible with this kind of material. And we always make sure that we scuff the wood a little bit underneath so that the glue has something to grab onto.
Mm-hmm.
So basically glues. decent quality wood glues.
Perfect. Do you need to reapply the wax every so often, like every year or every few years?
If you wish, you can, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, some pieces I've found, I mean, most of my pieces are waxed at home, and to be honest, over the years I've very rarely had to do anything with them.
I never do.
The only time I'll ever really need to use wax is, like I said, if the kids have marked a tabletop, and I'll clean it out with clear wax.
Yeah, great. Someone's asked, if you decoupage, do you use a product like Mod Podge? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, you can, but you can also use, which is what I tend to use, is just a watered down PVA. So just a normal,
almost half and half. Huh?
Yeah, pretty watered down. So you water down your PVA. Again, I scuff the wood a little bit so that it has a good chance of grabbing, and you put on your glue and you let it sit and sort of partly dry and get a bit tacky. And then you can do another layer, let that get tacky, another layer, get that, and then put your decoupage on. And then we finish with, so we would then seal the decoupage with wax or varnish. So again, you can use the coloured waxes as well. So if you do a decoupage and you want it to look really old, we do the clear wax and then we use dark waxes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can stick anything. We've stuck fabric, all sorts of things. Yeah.
Perfect, great. Thanks, guys. We're just about to hit 1 o'clock, so I'll just ask the last question. It's just asking about yourselves and whether there's a premises for your business and how we can get in touch with you for further ideas and things like that. So do you guys just want to give a bit of detail on that?
Sure. Well, we're located in St. Ives, and we have a website, shed11.com.au, where there's an email address, info@shed11.com.au if you want to email us. We're also on Instagram and on Facebook, Shed11. Our phone numbers are there too, so we're available on any type of communication over Instagram, Instant Messenger, SMS, MMS, telephone, and we're available.
And we work from our home studios, so at the moment we don't have a commercial premises, but we do teaching. At the moment we do one-on-one lessons at home. We're looking at starting up some workshops for the public in the new year in a commercial venture, commercial space.
We have done demos in shops.
Yep.
We're doing one this Sunday at Bumblebee Shed Shop. Bumble Shed Shop.
Yeah, so, and we love to share our knowledge. So honestly, if there's any questions you have, please just feel free to ask us, no problem.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. This was a fantastic workshop. We've just hit 1 o'clock, so we'll wrap it up. I know there were a few more questions in there. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. But thank you again to Gemma and Fanny for a really wonderful webinar on how to upcycle your furniture. Like I said, we will send the discount and the handouts to you by email. So please check your inbox for those shortly. And thank you everyone for attending as well. Yeah, what a great webinar.
Thank you for hosting us, Karen. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks very much, guys. All right, bye everyone.